Hey guys, welcome back to the Joe Silverback Show. I'm your host, Joe Bunton, and today we're going to talk about motherhood and happiness. This weekend is Mother's Day. There's lots of conversations about motherhood. I just came back from my mother's house digging in the garden, something that she and I both love. And I listened to two programs today that spoke about motherhood and happiness. So my premise of this is the premise that Corinne and I understood and learned when we were starting our family, and I learned from my mentor when he was challenging my academic, liberal, progressive assumptions. And one of the things that he basically told me was that I needed to get out of the way in terms of Corinne's wanting family and give her what she needed as a woman and as a mother. And in doing so, I opened up to something magical about biology, about nature, about womanhood, and about motherhood, and about manhood, and about fatherhood. And we're going to talk about those as fast as we can to get into a 15-minute segment, but we might have to go further than that. So first and foremost, you understand that, my premise is that biology trumps culture. And there's something biologically in us that if we embrace it, if we learn to love that aspect of ourselves, if we celebrate and rejoice our biology, something better becomes of our life, both as men and as women. And today we're talking about motherhood. So the celebration of a woman becoming a mother, if you left it to me, I remember my children coming back, or one of my boys coming back from a soccer trip in Brazil, maybe it was my brother took some of the family down to Brazil, but somehow down in Brazil there was a poster in the center of a major city of a mother breastfeeding her baby. Full breast, baby, breastfed, mother, nature, earth, the celebration of motherhood, Brazil. Sorry for this, but I mean this in a very celebratory way. There's a childhood innocence in Brazilians that my wife and my children and I and my brother and his wife and their children found and continue to find very special. And I think that the observation of allowing the icon of the mother in full exposure, allowing her to do what nature has designed, that kind of celebration is something that I bow down to, and look up to and admire. And I came to admire this in my wife and my children's mother, and of course I also have to say that I was blessed to have an older, grandfatherly, wise man stick his finger in my face on a regular basis to make sure that I was creating the environment for my children's mother to thrive and blossom and flourish in all her personhood and womanhood and motherhood. And right now we're not talking about personhood so much as motherhood, and the two are intertwined and the two weave in and out of each other. And and yet there is and has been for my 56 years on this planet a denunciation of motherhood as some chump change throwback to the Dark Ages and some only oppressed patriarchally oppressed couples would follow such archaic behavior, and the modern world is all about equality and egalitarianism and men and women being the same. And this is where I say that your and my celebration of values has to include the celebration that nature gave to each one of us. I have this color of hair, I have this color of skin, these eyes, this structural body. I have this brilliant brain, this good heart. I mean, it's what I'm born with and what you're born with, and we need to celebrate it. And we also equally need to celebrate that our women are born to give birth. It's in their nature, and it's not in our nature. And there's a misconception that began with the second wave of feminism. I can't think of her name right now, but in the 60s there was this trying to equate motherhood with being in jail. And I have said multiple times that my children's mother's intelligence in some ways was superior to mine. And I have also said that my children's mother's emotional intelligence was superior to mine. Their mother was had a very, very sharp mind. And as a woman connected to her womanliness and her femininity, and ultimately to giving birth and becoming a mother, and regardless if she was able to give birth or not, because of being able to give birth, this emotional intelligence, this selflessness that I've talked about so many times before in relationship to women and motherhood, this is what we need to serve, okay? This is something that men bow down to and do need to recognize and look up to. Trying to get us to look up to women who are the same as us is a mistake. They are not the same. And I do not admire and respect women as leaders of men. I don't say that a woman can't lead, like we have a beautiful professor who led our class. She was the leader of the class. Of course, you can have a boss who's a woman who can be a supervisor, be a manager, be a district manager. We can have Hillary Clinton be the president of the United States. But that's not the primary motivation of where my respect lies in a woman. My deeper respect lies in a selflessness that woman has inside of her, that once she embraces it through getting pregnant and fully allows that, and if I, as a, her man, or you as her man, or someone else as men, can provide and protect and create a loving, supportive environment so that woman during that time can have the rock that she needs to support herself, to go through the 9 months of pregnancy and go through hopefully several years of freedom to interact with her child as her child needs her, and she needs to be interacting with that child. That's what I celebrate and embrace. And that doesn't take away from the beautiful woman who taught my class, who, also had 2 children at home. And that didn't take away from, my beautiful wife, who every time that she had weaned, her children, or her child had gotten maybe to around 3 years old, she was ready to, dive back into her creativity. And always while she was with her children, she was working on her creativity. And for her, her creativity was knitting. So it was a beautiful balance for her. And I know, and I read this article because I'm in an MFA program and I'm a writer, and this beautiful article was by a woman who, when she was in an MFA at 23, was, looking at someone in the program who was pregnant, and she's just like, Jesus, man, she's screwed, meaning she can't, she won't ever be able to put her attention to her creativity. And also in this article, they said, well, they went to the professor's home, the professor who was their professor of creativity and celebrating the genius writers that they were all striving to be, and the great ideas and idealisms that all of us who are creative want to express. And they got to this professor's house, and lo and behold, this professor, had children and a wife and kids and milk spilling and, all the stuff that parents go through. So this article was now looking back 13 years later on this MFA student who was now a mother and who was balancing out family life with her creative life, and the yearning to write that she had as her children were hitting a certain age. And I would say that the world is becoming a much better place for women to be able to embrace multiple sides of themselves. But almost across the board, except for that small percentage of women who do not desire and choose not to have children, across the board, let's just call it 90%. Maybe it's 85, I don't know. It doesn't matter. The majority of women find their deepest happiness and fulfillment through childbirth and caring for and nurturing their children. Some of them find it so fulfilling they never want to go back into the workplace again. Some of them find it mutually fulfilling, and they want to do it right, and they want to go back into the workplace in a gradual way. Some of them are not having that choice, and they're suffering because they can't be more with their children. So for me, my primary urge and urgency in this is not about celebrating those women who don't want to have children, and that small percentage of them who can be content without that, but celebrating the 90% who need to have us support and provide and protect them so that they can do it the way that nature has designed their hearts and their urges and their desires to want them to be able to do it. We just got finished with a writing seminar, and we were blessedly invited to our professor's home, and her husband is a chef, and he cooked pizza for us, and her children were running around, and she had one in her arms, and they were climbing on his back, and some other writer friends came over and had children, and this organic thing with family and nature is so beautiful. It's like my mother said, who raised 5 of us all by herself. When I told her at 21 that the Bunton line ended here, my twin brother and I said, we're not having children, and she got a tear in her eye, and she said, you don't want to miss that. And 8 children later, 4 from my brother and 4 from me, I don't want anybody to miss that. And being at my professor's home and seen this monkey embrace and this little 3-year-old or 4-year-old just cuddled in his mother's arms, and the mother being able to cuddle with her baby and talk with other people and have a human experience and go meet us once a week and teach 3 hours. We need to allow our women to be supported and protected and provided for. I mean, if I was a rich man, I would have a pocket here that just for those women who wanted to take care of their children at home, I would support that. And anyway, happy Mother's Day to everybody. Namaste. That's my 15 minutes. The silverback growl. Motherhood and happiness. Don't miss it.